See, can you tell us a little bit more about when you found these skeletons in the house? Where were they? What condition were they in? What was he doing with them?
So, John, a lot remains to be determined at this point. They were in the basement predominantly, although, as you can imagine, with 100 remains, it was not as though they were in an isolated area. We don't know exactly what he was doing with them. Time will tell. They were in various states. Understand, some of these are 200 years old.
The district attorney later said that walking into that home felt like stepping into a horror movie, except this was obviously real life. It reminds me of that movie too, House of a Thousand Corpses. I think it's a Rob Zombie movie. It's also who does, what's the other one? I know you guys are screaming it. I'm going to need to Google it after this, but they are like two of my favorite movies. As like Rob Zombie, his wife, and like the parents. It's so creepy and gross, but like, yeah, this is real life. So at this point, investigators realized they weren't dealing with just some one-off crime. They were dealing with something very systematic, something planned, ongoing. Police believe that many of these remains came from the Mount Moriah Cemetery, which also dates back all of the way to 1855. And this cemetery contains more than 150,000 burials. The cemetery has struggled with neglect and security issues for years, which makes it, of course, very vulnerable. And this is something that investigators believe Jonathan really took advantage of. So you would think that, okay, this is disturbing enough, right? What a freak. Why on earth was he doing this? Like, is he some just like weird perv, some weird like skeleton obsessor? What's going on? But as they kept digging into this, things then got even darker. Because court documents suggest that Jonathan may not have been keeping all of these remains for himself. Investigators actually uncovered digital evidence that indicated that some of these bones may have been sold or traded online. Because as we know, there is a huge market for weird-ass on the internet. And not only people trading organs or this or that, but people who want to buy actual human remains or trade them. And people online have since pointed to different posts in like oddity collector groups and images allegedly shared on social media that are images believed to show human remains taken from disturbed graves. And like I said, prosecutors have confirmed that some of the remains that were recovered are believed to belong to children, which kind of adds this whole other sick and twisted layer, right? Even if there is a market for people who want to buy human remains because they, are fascinated or they're just freaks of nature, they want children's remains. That is so sick and twisted. Jonathan has admitted to breaking into dozens of graves, but authorities say that the sheer volume of remains that were found points to one of the most extensive grave robbing cases that they have ever seen. So he is now facing hundreds of criminal charges, including more than 100 counts related to of a corpse, along with theft, burglary, desecration, and even more. He's being held on a $1 million bail, and his preliminary hearing is scheduled for later this month.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tanner Rouse. I'm the District Attorney of Delaware County, and we are here today because of the arrest of 34-year-old Jonathan Gerlach of Ephrata, Pennsylvania. Over the course of the last several weeks, detectives from Yeadon Borough as well as Delaware County CID became aware that from November of 2025 up until 2 days ago, January of 2026, Mount Moriah Cemetery had been burglarized by, at that point, an unknown individual. 26 separate mausoleums and or underground burial sites had been torn into and, for lack of a better word, desecrated. Investigation took place. Yeadon deserves a hell of a lot of credit on this for doing good old-fashioned police work, going through LPRs, tracking physical evidence, piecing together a suspect, cooperating with CID. We developed that suspect, we laid in wait, and we eventually watched and caught Mr. Gerlach as he desecrated yet another monument as recently as 2 days ago. He was taken into custody. Search warrants were executed at his home in Ephrata, where over 100 human skeletons were recovered. And that's in part, at this point, we are still trying to figure out how many of those are complete and what exactly we are looking at. A separate storage locker was found to be in Mr. Gerlach's possession. That also was in Ephrata. We found there 8 more human remains. Very simply, detectives have recovered an awful lot of bones at this point, and we are still trying to piece together who they are, where they are from, and how many we are looking at, and it's going to be quite some time before we have a final answer.